Can you get a service dog for ADHD? The answer is maybe, but don't worry, I'm gonna break this all down, so stay tuned. For the best dog training and product advice, be sure to hit subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified every time I post a new video. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lisa. I'm a certified professional dog trainer, and I love helping pups and their parents live more peaceful lives together. Okay, so before we get into this, I do want to mention that this is something I've really thought through because I personally have ADHD as well as anxiety, and unfortunately I don't have a service dog just because my 3 dogs are not really qualified to be a service dog. First of all, Ziggy, he's a little bit older, has joint issues, Waffles, obsessed with squirrels and rabbits, and my 3rd dog, Dodger, is actually a career change service dog. That being said, now I do volunteer with Atlas Assistance Dogs, and through my volunteer work I help teams go from having a service dog in training all the way to a fully trained service dog. And I did want to shed some light on whether someone with ADHD would qualify or not. So in order to understand whether you would qualify, we really need to break down what the actual law is, the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. So according to the ADA, the disability must fall under the definition of what they describe as a disability. So their definition is, to be protected by the ADA, one must have a disability which is defined by the ADA as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. The ADA does not specifically name all of the impairments that are covered. So I totally understand that this is vague, but in layman's term, yes, your ADHD would qualify as long as it's severe enough where it interferes with your everyday in this neurotypical society. Now, it's not just really up to you. You actually need a medical professional to back you up on this. According to the ADA, in order to qualify for a service dog, you do have to provide documentation from a medical professional that your disability could be improved or supported by having a service dog. This means that your very first step is to check in with a medical professional. Before you go though, I think it's beneficial to actually prepare in advance and outline how your ADHD hinders you in your everyday life and exactly how a service dog can help. Which brings us to the next step, is how can a service dog help with someone's ADHD? Once again, it depends because not everyone is affected by the same disability in the exact same way. You'll want to outline and write down exactly your biggest frustrations when it comes to your disability. I'm not going to leave you hanging though. I want to share exactly what I would outline if I was going to go speak to a doctor. So first, one of the biggest problems that I experience with ADHD is remembering to take my medication. The second issue that I really struggle with is getting out of hyperfocus, which I know a lot of other ADHDers can really relate to. For me, hyperfocus really does affect my everyday life because it ends up making me either late to appointments or miss them altogether because I was too hyperfocused on a certain task. I also struggle with chronic neck and back pain, which being in a hyper-focused crouched position over my computer is definitely not helpful, and I end up being in a lot of pain after if I can't get myself out of that hyper-focus. The third thing that my ADHD really interferes with is just being really overstimulated in certain environments. So for me, I get really overwhelmed going to any kind of networking event. It gives me a lot of anxiety. I think on the outside I seem pretty okay, but it's a lot of me internally spending a lot of energy ultimately. And then it just gives me a ton of fatigue where I'm just kind of exhausted to really be productive for the rest of the day. And then frustration and trouble relaxing. So if I feel like I was really distracted during the day and I didn't get as much done as I should, then I start to have trouble sleeping because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this today, I didn't do that today. I also get really frustrated when I can't find things around the house. So I think a lot of these issues are somewhat similar to what people struggle with when they have ADHD, but if not, hopefully that helped get your brainstorming going, because now we'll talk about how a service dog would be able to address some of these issues. So first, remembering to take your meds in the morning or evening. You can actually train your dog to alert you when it's time to take your medication, and you can even train your dog to actually retrieve your medication. For hyperfocus, you can actually train your dog to interrupt certain cues of hyperfocus. So if there are certain behaviors that you exhibit when you're hyperfocused, you can actually teach your dog that that's a cue for them to come interrupt you, whether that's licking your hand or nose bumping your leg. Now, the third one is overstimulation. If it's in a social environment, you can actually teach your dog a graceful exit, which is ultimately where they nose bump you and act like they need to go outside to pee. So you can let the crowd know, hey, my dog actually needs to pee. I'm gonna step out really quickly, and that'll give you a moment to ground down before going back in. Last but not least, this is my favorite, is you can teach your dog deep pressure therapy. So deep pressure therapy is where they either set their paws on your feet or they lay down when you're sitting down, and this is really great for grounding down when you are frustrated or just having trouble relaxing at night. So let me know if you want me to do a tutorial on any of these service dog tasks. Also, an important thing to note too is that it's not just about the service dog tasks. These are the beginning steps. The next is just making sure that your dog has the right temperament for being out in public and that they're able to pass the public access test. If you're not sure where to start, I really recommend being able to get your dog's focus first in a large variety of environments. That's because most training issues stem from the fact that your dog is overstimulated and doesn't know how to focus on you. Because ultimately, no matter what you ask, whether that's a recall like come or sit or down, the very first step is to focus on you to see what you have to say. I actually have a whole training on how to get your dog to want to focus even when you don't have treats. I've included a link below, so be sure to sign up and watch that when you have a chance. All right, so that's it for today, everyone. I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.